Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing the tag video called My First Time Tag, I think it's called. Okay, I'll just start right in. Number 1, do you still talk to your first love? Once in a while I do, because he was my first husband, and we have 2 daughters together, so yes I do. What was your first alcoholic drink? My first alcoholic drink was Southern Comfort. I was at a pajama party, and they got into their parents' liquor cabinet, and at that age, I don't even remember how. I think I was like 15, 16 or something like that, and we just drank whatever was there. We didn't know what the heck we were drinking. We all got sick as dogs, and it was not a pretty sight. And I hated Southern Comfort, and to this day, the smell of it just makes me sick. What was your first job? My first job was when I was 16, or was it 15 and a half? I forget. You could work at 15 and a half, I think, with a permit in Massachusetts. And my first job was at a pharmacy, and I worked in the back at the pharmacy and did like pharmacy tech work and cashiering and stuff like that. It was a good little job. And what was your first car? Well, I didn't get my license till after I got married, and when I was 18, and so I really didn't drive until then. I was like the late bloomer who, was late getting everything. So my first car was a Plymouth Fury, and that thing was like a boat, let me tell you. Okay. Who was the first person to text you today? I didn't get a text. I don't text. I don't even know if I know how to text. I've just never texted before. I have that availability on my iPhone, but we just got our iPhone and I'm still learning how to use it, so I'm sure I'll learn soon. Who was the first person you thought of this morning? And that would have to be my husband, because I got out of bed and I tried to get out without waking him up and get both dogs off the bed, and which I managed to do. And I was just thinking of him so he could sleep in. Who was your first grade teacher? That would be Mrs. Airy. She was really nice. And who was your where did you go on your first ride in an airplane? Oklahoma. Who was your first best friend, and do you still talk? Her name was Rhonda, and no, after we got out of high school, we kind of moved in different cities and kind of lost track of each other, and I haven't heard from her. What was your first where was your first sleepover? That would have to be Rhonda's house. Who was the first person you talked to today? First the dogs, and then my daughter Nicole, the one that's in Sweden. She called me this morning at 6:30 because they're 6 hours ahead of us there, so it was like, noon there. And she knows I get up early. Whose wedding were you in the first time? I was never in a wedding. The first wedding that I was in was my own. I was asked to be a bridesmaid at a high school friend of mine, and by then we had moved to Cape Cod, and I was just newly married at 18, and I didn't have the money to buy a dress or a gift and to pay for gas to get up there, because we had just moved to the Cape and we were both still looking for jobs. So, unfortunately, I didn't attend her wedding. But I still, have kept in touch with her. What was the first thing you did this morning? That would be make coffee and let the dogs out. What is the first concert you ever went to? That would have to be Rod Stewart at the Fleet Center in Boston in, I think it was 1999. The first movie I ever saw at the theater that I still remember. First one I ever saw at the theater, I think I was like 6, and we were at my cousin's house, and our parents dropped all us kids off at the movies, and we went to see Jack the Giant Killer, and it was the original movie, and I remember being scared stiff. It was like, I thought they were going to jump out of the screen at me. Okay, first broken bone. Luckily, I have made it to 58 years old and haven't had one broken bone. Knock on wood. First detention at school was when I was a senior. I was down in the gym bathroom, in the girls' gym, and in the girls' locker room, and we used to have this really mean gym teacher, and she didn't like me, and she knew I didn't like her, and I didn't like gym, period. But I was in the bathroom, and somebody was smoking, and they knew that the teacher was coming, and they asked me if I would hold their cigarette for a second. And they walked out of the room, and my teacher walked in, and I got suspended for like 3 days, and the school called my parents, told them that I was smoking, and it wasn't even my cigarette. So that was the first time and only time I ever got detention. Oh, wait a minute. I did get indoor detention at the school after school for skipping school one day, and the school called my house to see why I wasn't in, and my mom says, well, she left for school this morning, but I happened to be at my boyfriend's house, who later became my husband, the one I have 2 children with, my first husband, and I was over at his house, and a bunch of us kids were skipping school over there, and so my mother called his house, and he used to have this old aunt that answered the phone, and she lived with them, and so my mother said, is Colleen there? And her name was Aunt Mamie, and Mamie answered the phone, and she says, yep, just a minute. And I got on the phone, my mother says, you better get home here now. The school just called, and you are getting marched right up the school. So she marched me into the principal's office, right into the front door by my collar, and turned in every one of the kids that we were skipping school with that day, and I will never forgive her for that because it was so embarrassing. I was mortified. It was just like lunchtime at school, and everybody was out in the hallway, and a lot of people were up around the office, and they saw me getting marched in by my mother, by my collar. And the kids that I was with that day skipping school also all got turned in, so we all had in-house detention after school for like 3 weeks, and they weren't too happy with my mother. Nobody liked my mother back in them days. The one thing that I would learn if I had a chance. One thing that I would learn if I had a chance. That's a tough one, I'll tell you. I think the only thing that I would like to learn at my age, but it's a little late now and my ankles aren't too good, but I would love to learn how to figure skate. I've never been able to stand up on skates. I have never been able to ski. I've always had weak ankles. And so if I could wave a magic wand and learn how to do something, it would be figure skate, because I love watching it on TV. I love watching it on the Olympics. I used to love watching like Dorothy Hamill and all the figure skate is, and I just think it's the most beautiful, graceful ice sport that there is. And so if I had a chance and I could wave a wand and, you know, my ankles would you know, be less wobbly, I would love to learn that. So I thank you all for watching, and I tag anybody that wants to do this tag, and have a great afternoon.